Okay, we are live streaming.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Sandy. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I think this is our 9th or 10th virtual meeting, and the challenge is smoothing it out. But I think we're doing well. It's an honor and privilege to serve as your chair. Remember to please mute when not speaking, and we can do our consensus voting with show of hands as well as voice. That's my brief introduction. Welcome to everyone to the February 3rd meeting of the Capital District Transportation Planning Committee. Are there any visitor issues that wish to address the board present with a quorum today? Going once? Going twice? That opportunity is passed, but we always welcome visitor issues at the start of every meeting. We have transportation constituents that do show up occasionally. So administration item 3 is the adoption of the January 6th meeting minutes that were distributed by staff. Thank you again, staff. Are there any corrections or clarifications warranted for the adoption of our January 6th minutes? We'll take a vote.
I'll move the adoption, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. That's a motion. Second by?
I'll second it, Steve.
Thank
Steve
you. Who is that?
Steve.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Excellent. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, raise your hand. Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Show of hands on the group screen. Any abstaining or opposed to the minutes? Our first action item, I believe hereby carries. Thank you very much. Following our traditional minutes and agenda, advanced agenda, we have a great presentation with Ross Farrell and the CDTA on the update of the Bus Rapid Transit River Corridor construction. Take it away, Ross. You ready?
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to pass it off to Jeremy Smith in a second, but just do a quick intro for everyone. We rolled out the River Corridor BRT on November 8th. It is our second BRT line in the region, and thank you to everyone who was involved for years and years, especially staff at CDTC, to do the planning, design of the project. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we realized the need for more really staff capacity to construct a project of this magnitude. And luckily, we were able to bring Jeremy Smith, who everyone knows from the city of Waterville, onto the team. So Jeremy's just going to go through the project, how it was constructed. Again, the largest project really we've undertaken at CDTA, and luckily we had Jeremy as part of our group to get it done in a very short time frame, as well as during a global pandemic. So with that, Jeremy, I'll just pass it off to you for the full presentation.
Thank you, Ross. Let me just get back to sharing the screen here and maybe be okay. First, it's great to be back on the planning committee. I did get to sit around the table with many of you for a couple of years, so it's exciting to be back and to see some of your faces. Wish we were at the table again to be able to see you a little bit more. I appreciate you giving us the time to present today for the River BRT. As Ross mentioned, I joined the team in 2019. We were in the heart of the River Corridor BRT project at that time, and we have since completed the majority of the project and have rolled out. Let me first check to make sure everybody can hear me okay and everybody can see my screen.
You're good, Jeremy. Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. All right, so just a quick overview, and again, I know many of you have seen some of these slides before and some of the background information on the project. Again, BRT stands for Bus Rapid Transit. The major component of this project was a $42.5 million small starts grants from the FTA. This is a 15 to 16 mile stretch of service that runs from Waterford to the Albany County Rail Trail and back, with two branches off of this, one that starts and ends in downtown Cohoes and at the Delaware Ave station in the city of Albany. Some statistics: there are 31 total stations, as you see on the picture on the right here, 52 total shelters throughout this. There's TSP, which is transit signal priority, at 74 traffic signals throughout. Two park and ride facilities, one that is currently being built at Route 378 in Menands, the old Menands Diner, and one at the Albany County Rail Trail, the southernmost point of the BRT. 10 new traffic signals in total are across the corridor, many of which you'll see on the 2nd Ave branch of the BRT. There were 13 property acquisitions. That'll be on the top of the list when I talk about challenges for this project. 20 new BRT buses added to the fleet. We also did a Troy Garage Division expansion, which was the storage and the repair area. And again, the revenue service began on November 8th of 2020. This presentation is going to focus mostly on the construction of the project. So, of course, at the end, any questions Ross or myself can certainly answer. And it's very photo heavy, so that you can see some pictures in there. I know how much everybody likes pictures, so we made sure to put as many pictures in there as we could and still limit the slides and keep with the time of this. So we'll start with the site work for each of the sites. Again, 58 total sites were constructed. By constructed, we're talking about multiple aspects: excavation, curbing, concrete work, paving work, underground electrical was a big piece to most of these sites. Utility work where needed, with water lines or any other sewer lines that might have been in the area. Of course, power lines and working with National Grid. Striping as well at many of these locations and in the roadways that were paved. This picture that you see here on the right, this is at the Morton station. This is Morton northbound, right in front of the county building, just to give an idea of what kind of what it looked like when it was about halfway done. So in this area right here, and we'll talk about this a little bit, the area that is not covered yet, that is because during this picture it is waiting to have heated sidewalks installed. We'll get into talking about some of the amenities across the corridor as well. Again, very picture heavy here so that you can get a look, some before and afters of some different sites here. Again, just to give you an idea of some of the work that took place. Again, this is most of these are after excavation and the curbing is already in, and the electrical work was either about to begin or had already been completed. Just a few photos here to kind of go through. This is a 2nd Ave location. The second set of photos is in the city of Albany, and these last four are the 19th Street site, both northbound and southbound in the city of Watervliet. For those of you that remember, you'll probably see a couple of extra photos of the city of Watervliet because I still have a little bit of bias towards those stations. So, some of my favorites. Again, a couple more pictures. This is the warehouse district locations. The picture on your left is the southbound location, and the picture on the right is the northbound location. Again, this is after excavation, and the electrical work had already been done, so you can kind of see some stub ups on both sides here as it was prepared to be finished. And if you get a chance to get out there, you'll see the finished product now. This next slide, because we were able to get some aerial views here, just wanted to give a before and after to see some of the further extensive work that was done, and also some partnership work that was done in the city of Albany, not only with the adjacent property owner, but of course Albany County, the city of Albany, the Albany Bike Coalition. A lot of folks worked together and coordinated to make this particular site a reality. And so this is the rail trail located in Old South Pearl next to the Center for Disability. And as you can see, kind of connecting the rail trail parking lot, CDTA's bus station, and a park and ride at this location. So just a little bit more of an overhead view of what it looked like and what work was completed there. And it also piggybacked with the Center for Disability redoing their parking lot as well to accommodate their parking needs. And again, to continue with that theme, this is an overhead view of the Mount Hope stations, again, in the south end of Albany, and again, with coordination for the bike path and the connector from the Albany County Rail Trail to the Mohawk Hudson. So just gives you an idea of how there was, you'll see at different stations, things are shaped a little bit differently. And again, it's to accommodate all the other infrastructure in the area. Just a couple more pictures. So moving on to our shelters, our shelter contract, and it should be, I should have mentioned that our site work contract, there were 2 bids for those, the phase 2 and phase 3 during the CIG project, and Callanan Construction was the GC for that work. DuoGuard has the contract for our shelter installs and manufacturing. 48 of these shelters were installed pre-rollout, so before November 8th, with 4 installs still to go. There's actually a 5th there at the Delaware station. The shelter is not in yet, making some changes to that location to better accommodate, and so that shelter is not in yet, so you could add a 5th to that list. J Street northbound and southbound still to be constructed, Riverfront Station in the city of Troy, and then 4th and Fulton as well. Those are still areas that still require shelters to be placed. So this is a rendering here, obviously, of what our shelters were expected to look like. And again, the amenities that go with those, benches, both interior to the shelter and exterior, lean rails along the shelters, bike racks, garbage cans. We do have a green shelter that will be installed this spring with a solar wall at 4th and Congress. I have a rendering picture of that later on in the presentation here for you to get a look at. And then at certain locations, some of the final locations that we built, we were able to kind of pilot a couple of ideas here to be able to help not only the ridership and to make it a little bit more comfortable while waiting for the bus and exiting and entering the bus, but also to help in the communities and municipalities that we're in to help with some snow removal and again, safety. So at about 18 sites, there will be heated sidewalks, heated shelters, they'll be solar powered on the roof, and they will also have USB chargers. Some of these heated sidewalks are already up and running, so we'll be able to give you a view of what that looks like through these pictures as well. So I'll kind of move on to some of these pictures. This is one of the first stations that was completed along the BRT. This is the 118th Street location in North Troy, Lansingburg area. Again, to give you an idea, this is a little bit more of a close-up of the shelter. Looks a lot like the rendering. ADA compliant area, interior benches, lean rails, and as we look to the other 2 photos here, exterior benches, garbage cans, and just a little bit of a side view so that you can see. This is one of our smaller shelters along the corridor, and you'll see some of the larger ones and how they look a little bit different because of their size. So here comes my bias, but it's not just mine. There's a lot of folks around that think that this is one of the nicest sites along the BRT. I certainly enjoy the Port Schuyler station. I think it was very well done, fits very nicely where it is. So we get a little picture of it lit up at night, obviously before the snow started falling this winter. And then again, kind of a full spread of what the station looks like. So these are not just shelters, these are really full stations, complete with the exterior benches, again, the lean rails, and of course, the pylons, which are more than just wayfinding to find it. There's also a lot of electrical infrastructure that is inside these pylons to be able to not only power the shelter itself, but also for communication purposes, room in there for some future infrastructure, And at some of our sites, they also help to power the heated sidewalks and heated shelters. Speaking of heated sidewalks, here's a view at the Albany County Rail Trail Station. Not from this particular storm, but the last one that we received. And again, really shows how these heated sidewalks work. This is very exciting for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people. Not only to have them installed, but to see them actually work and be operational, and how much help it is. It's obviously help for, a lighter snow where you might not get out there to shovel. It keeps it clean and neat, but it certainly also helps our shelter crews that go out there to maintain these areas. It puts a lot less stress on them and on their backs to get out there and shovel and snow blow and to get it done. But the main focus is it really helps for our riders to be able to safely on and off board the bus and to keep it neat and clean, and something that we're continuing to look at in the future at some of our upcoming stations. Moving on from the shelters, River BRT also included the need for an expansion of our Troy garage to be able to support the service. This is about a $6 to $6.5 million project. UW Marks is the general contractor on the project. Two major aspects of the project are the storage expansion itself, 8,250 square feet, to be able to house the 20 new River BRT buses, plus a little bit. And then the maintenance expansion as well, 6,700 square foot expansion of the maintenance and repair area. Within there included new lifts, new controls, also allowed for an articulated bus bay to be able to work on our articulated buses in the city of Troy. First picture in here, obviously, is a rendering of what it would look like. And then the bottom picture is a mostly finished picture. This is before the paving was completed. But I'd say they match up pretty well. It's always good that the final product looks like the rendering that was approved. So some good stuff there. Just a couple of quick pictures of the interior of the storage area once completed. So this first picture is actually in the completed new storage area with new floor, new epoxy floor. And then the second picture is standing in the previous storage area looking out to the new area. And this was an extension onto the north end of the building. So where I'm standing here during this picture is right by where the previous overhead doors were located. And then again, the expansion goes to the north, leading to the new overhead doors. The repair area, again, this was a little bit different because to be able to complete this, we did have to dig up the old repair area. So this entire area was kind of out of commission for 6 to 8 months. We made do in the storage area to be able to accommodate maintenance and repairs of the buses. So this top picture really shows how much work was done in there. The entire repair area ripped up, new infrastructure placed underground. Bottom picture shows the precast panels having been set, and then from there was the finishings onto the repair area. And the repair area is up and operational today. Has been for a little over a month now. And just a quick little picture here showing that our buses are there and are being repaired already. So up and operational, a big undertaking, a lot of coordination between departments, and of course with the city of Troy to be able to get this done. And it's in punch list now and ready to be closed out. So this project is, for all intents and purposes, complete. Moving on from the Troy garage, there's still some things to come. It's kind of a work in progress here. We call it a couple more pieces of site work, calling it phase 4 of the project. J Street is still yet to be constructed in the city of Troy. That design is complete, and we expect to begin that construction in April or early spring of this year. 80 Broadway is a new location that we are looking to add. We'll be requesting that from the FTA moving forward and to construct there. 80 Broadway is in the village of Menands and located between two of our stations. Basically, it'd be just after or just south of the Riverview Center, between our Riverview Center station and our North Albany station. That is site work yet to be done. Also, Riverfront Station, there's still some site work to be done there as well. Shelters still left remaining to be placed. And here's a great rendering of 4th and Congress. The project just completed by Rosenblum in the background here. And what we're placing here, there's a current shelter there, but this will be replaced with this shelter. And what you see over here, this tinted glass here, this is a solar panel glass wall. That's the south-facing wall there. And if you've been down in the area of 4th and Congress, it's a bit of a tunnel there, so not a lot of sun exposure. So the wall was the best way to be able to create power from the sun. It also has a green roof. Green roof meaning that it will have plantings up there, green like grass. This is something new for us. Again, kind of piloting it, seeing how it works, and working with our partners at Rosenblum to make this a reality. This station will also have a couple of other different amenities. This is one of the stations that will have the heated sidewalks, heated shelter, USBs for phone charging. It'll also have the big belly garbage cans, solar-powered, self-compacting garbage cans there. Again, giving that a try. We have tried that in the past, mixed reviews on that, so we're going to give that a shot again and see how that works out. Maybe something that we add to some future sites as well. Again, still to be set with shelters, J Street and 80 Broadway upon completion of those. Riverfront, 4th and Fulton. As a matter of fact, if the snow can stop a little bit and we can get clear area there, that 4th and Fulton shelter will be up very soon. And then the Delaware turnaround, as I had mentioned previously, the shelter is not there yet, but that will be placed in the spring when we do some finishing touches on that station as well. Also still to come to accommodate the additional buses and upgrades to the repair area in Troy. We also need to upgrade and kind of reconfigure the locker rooms and bathrooms at the Troy garage. So that portion of the project is out to bid now. We have bids coming in at the end of February, and that work will likely start in April and be completed this construction season, probably around September, if not sooner, to finish some upgrades there. So that's a really quick overview of the construction of the project. That certainly could have taken a lot longer and gotten into more detail. And at any time, if anybody wants to reach out and ask any more detailed questions, certainly available to answer any of those. But I really wanted to talk about some of the key issues and challenges. We all definitely run into these when we have construction projects. And obviously, in the last year, the main challenge that we had was COVID. Still dealing with that in a lot of different ways. But mainly what that did was, it scared a lot of people. It scared a lot of the contractors. Being able to social distance while in a lift or, in a tight quarters was very concerning to people. So things progressed a little bit slower for that reason. Not because we were halted for construction. Again, we did not have to stop any construction of our sites, but it did slow it down to be able to accommodate the restrictions that were imposed on us for this. Add to that deliveries, things that would normally take 2 to 4 weeks were definitely more like 10 to 12 weeks to be able to get delivered. So again, that slowed us down, but we were only 1 week further out when we rolled out our service. So we were expecting November 1st and we rolled out on November 8th. So I think that's a rather big accomplishment for the team and for CDTA and for everybody that we worked with on this. 13 right-of-way acquisitions. They kind of ranged. Some were very easy, some were very difficult. One took us, and again, part of the Delaware turnaround delay was because of that property acquisition. Certainly wouldn't say that the right-of-way acquisitions were easy, but they were all accomplished. And only a couple of those ended up having to go to the eminent domain process. So pretty successful there. This project took place and required coordination with 3 counties and 6 municipalities. Definitely challenges there to coordinate with different folks. Everybody has a different permit system. Everybody has different ways of how they like to do things. So there's a challenge there. But again, it was rather easy to work with all of the counties and municipalities, as well as DOT, who own some of the property that we were building on as well. We were able to accomplish this, again, because of the partnerships that we have with the counties and municipalities and DOT. So for those of you that are on where the BRT runs through, thank you very much for working with us and continuing to work with us as we complete this. The one that I did not put on there is National Grid. National Grid can always be challenging to work with, again, especially when we're talking about 52 shelters, all of which need to be powered and all of which are on their own individual accounts, require inspections, connections. So you will see along the corridor that some of our sites are still not lit. Should be rather soon. Again, that takes a lot of coordination with National Grid, and that's always a big challenge. Staff transition I put on here, and this isn't really to focus on me so much, but this project had taken place, had been underway, and CDTA added another staff, our construction manager, Adam Slade, who oversaw all of the construction of each of the aspects of this project, as well as me coming in kind of mid-project as a director of facility. So a lot of times there can be some challenges when you have new staff coming in, especially if they don't know about the project. I was lucky enough to have a background in the project, and also lucky enough to have folks like Ross, who knows all the ins and outs of the project, to be able to go back to, as well as our consulting engineers at Creighton Manning. I say in here in-ground work at Troy Garage, but there was a lot of challenges with our Troy Garage expansion. This is an older building, and although we can design it to the best of our ability and knowledge of what is there, when you rip a wall off of an old building and you're planning to connect a new wall to that building, none of the lines are ever straight. They never line up perfectly. And of course, anytime you're digging underground, it's difficult. You don't know what you're going to run into there. And of course, we ran into a lot of different challenges on both of those fronts. With that said, it's built, it's operational, it's looking good, and the work got completed. So again, it was a challenge, but one that we were able to overcome and get that work complete. Again, I tried to get through this rather quickly, but still provide as much information as I could to give all of you an idea of how this project went, what the issues and challenges were, and how we were able to get it done. If there's any specific questions or detailed questions that you'd like to ask after, I'm always available. You can call or email me. But I guess at this point, if there's any questions, free to ask, I believe.
Excellent. Thank you for an excellent overview. This is truly a capstone project of our CDTC mission with both intermunicipal and intermodal and all aspects of our mission in play. So congratulations on your demonstrated successful construction, and coordination still in progress. So it's an important update. I open it to the members for other questions.
Jeremy, 2 things. First, please switch the host back to me when you have a chance. And second, there are some questions in the chat room. I don't think we've answered Elizabeth Cormos. Her question was, how are the heated sidewalks powered?
Okay, good. I'm not exactly sure how to switch it back to you, Mike, but if you...
In the top right of the cell where I have my photo, there's 3 dots. Click on that.
Okay. Make host. All right. I think I accomplished that one. IT folks will be happy with me. That's about as far as I can go here. So how are they heated? They are, they're electric powered. So they are powered through our meter at the station. At every one of these stations where we have heated sidewalks or we will be putting in heated shelters, they are also solar powered to help counter what the electrical usage would be. We don't have firm numbers on how much power we will generate from the solar, nor how much power will be used for the heated sidewalks. But in our base numbers and looking at this, they basically offset or pretty close to offset. So that is how we power the heated sidewalks. I can read through these. Are any of the new buses going to be electric? So these particular River BRT buses are not electric buses. They're run out of our Troy facility, which posed a lot of challenges to be able to have electrification there to charge the buses. We do have the ability to charge buses in Albany, but the operation does not run out of Albany. The pedestals contain the electronics for the shelter. So the pylons do have have all the electrical infrastructure for the shelters. Yes. At some locations where we do have the heated sidewalks and shelters, we did have to put in additional cabinets to be able to house the electrical infrastructure. So you will see at those 18 sites some larger black cabinets in there as well. Contamination found when excavating the garage. So we did have an asbestos report, and we did do all the remediation at the very beginning of that project. That was before I arrived, so that was back in July or August of 2019. I can get you some information on that, Andrew, as to exactly what was there, but yeah, there was abatement prior to the work starting. So those are the questions that were in the chat. If there's any others.
Yeah, this is Adam Ugelski. Jeremy, thank you very much for the presentation. It's an exciting project. I wanted to ask about the sort of from the connected and automated vehicles perspective. You have transit signal priority at a number of these locations. So kind of in two parts. One is, how do you guys imagine this as kind of a corridor for the future of connecting various elements and users of the transportation network? And I guess sort of secondly, the level of coordination among the various municipalities. It strikes me that a lot of these it sounds like you did some upgrades and installed some new signals. Is the whole corridor kind of, linked? And, how is that in terms of working with the municipalities, each of which probably has their own kind of traffic signal management, program?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Definitely a challenge again, because each municipality has their own, and then again, some of these signals are DOT, who also has their own. So the way that transit signal priority works, it's really we're asking for signal change or signal hold when the bus is running late or needs to pick up some time. So if the bus is running on time, it's not affecting the signals at all. It is, again, from beginning to end of corridor and back. So it is every signal along the way. The communication of it, we're still kind of working on. So some of these signals had significantly old infrastructure in them. And so we've had to go back and rewire because even though it seems as though it should work by putting in the new infrastructure, you still have to go back and do a little bit extra. So we've had to do that. The communication from those signals to CDTA, that's what we're working on now. So, that portion of the communication of getting it back to us. So again, a lot of signals, for instance, in the city of Troy, that we have to go back and put some communication in. Same thing in Albany. there's different ways that we can do that. We can go right out to those signals, attach a laptop and download the information, or we can set it up so that that information can come directly back to us through the cloud. So that's a little bit of it there. We do feel that it's the future of public transportation, and especially in how we do things here. Without it, we're not sure, and certainly it would add a little bit more time to the route. When lights weren't cooperating, or for some reason we're running behind. But again, we are not continually. It's not like if as we get there, if we're on time, that the light stays green or changes to green. It's only if we're running late. I think really in talking about the future of this is, Sandy and the folks at CDTC are working on this. We have a couple of areas where we have bus lanes in here, and that's really key to getting the service to move faster throughout any corridor. Is the bus lanes and bus lane project and study that's up now. So that's part of the big future of how we get from point A to point B. Great questions. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Anyone else? Heated sidewalks are very attractive. We've tried them here at the airport, even heated runways and aircraft movement areas. Difficult to maintain after a few years, due to the frequency of movement and even earthquakes in the zone. Very difficult to maintain the grid infrastructure underlaying the pavements, but that's just a cautionary tale. Perhaps technology is improved, as it was decades ago that we did that, heated sidewalks and runways here. Any other questions from the members before we move on? It is 10:15. We have a few action items to vote on. Going once, going twice, we can move forward. Thank you, Russ Farrell and Jeremy Smith. Excellent and exciting news for our region on the blue line advancement, and the red line, I presume, is going well with bus rapid transit. So action items. Item 4 is the running story of fiscal constraint discussions every meeting. And please turn to table 4, which is labeled properly in the upper corner, agenda item 4, and table 4 is the updated fiscal constraint by fund source, demonstrating our very good efforts at maintaining balance over the 5-year period. And Michael will lead us on this update for fiscal constraint.
Yes,
Michael?
this is quick. I mean, we do this for information purposes. This is not an action item, but we do this so that the committee has a very good idea of our financial constraint requirements and how we've programmed and how the program has changed since the last meeting. So since the last meeting, there really haven't been any significant changes to table 4. We didn't have any actual tip amendments in the January meeting, but there have been changes that were made to the tip where CDTC, DOT, and the sponsor have agreed, and where the planning committee approval is not necessary. So there's some small changes. As in the last month, the only other item I would mention is year 4. Now, year 4 is always under programmed because it's in the next tip. And year 4 under programming increased slightly. But again, that's a good thing, because when we do have the new tip, that's going to be the first year of the new tip. And that's when we want the most funding. Most sponsors like to have those projects funded in the first year of the new tip. So that's a good thing, but that increased slightly since last month. And that's all I have for your information. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions on the updated table? We covered it pretty well in our last meeting in January 6th. We can move forward to item 5, which is the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. Amendments, as always, pretty routine on our agenda. We've got some state items, and I believe Bob Rice and/or Greg can lead us. Bob, are you ready on the item A? 5A is Rensselaer 341, Craft Road, New York Thruway, pavement corrective maintenance.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I would actually like to propose that for consideration to take them 2 together, Mike, 341 and 342. Steve, it's okay. They're sort of related. Essentially, NISDOT would like to propose for consideration to the body their paving work that we've got scheduled on I-90, basically with a slight change in the limits of the project, but essentially from exit 10 headed east to the thruway, the cost is a little bit up on that one, about 800,000 in construction cost and 100,000 for CI. So we're looking for another $900,000 for this year's project, and being offset by 342, which would push the other piece of the I-90 paving from the Hudson River to exit 10. That would push that into the following year, into 22, 23. So that's our proposal for consideration today, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Bob. Let's see, does this pose any significant change to the table 4 we just covered a minute ago? Probably
No,
not.
It actually, to Mike's point, it'd probably balance it a little bit more.
Right.
Doesn't it increase funding in this fiscal year? For increased programming, I should say.
Yes, it would.
Any other discussion before we vote?
Glenn, on your point, what does that increase the percentage over for this fiscal year?
Well, we'd have to just do the math quick. It would be, it's 900,000 increase. And I'd have to dig up table 4.
In the end, it doesn't change the 4-year number. It does shift money between the different years slightly, but Glenn, I don't think it's going to be significant, $900,000, but.
Well, it'll be more than 1%, but whatever, I mean, if we don't want to calculate it, that's fine.
As long as we're under 5, it's.
Yeah, I think we'd certainly be under 5.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe a percent and a quarter or something.
So it would be slightly more than 1%, and right now we're at 2.8. So that would bump us up close to 4.
Only caught part of what you said, Glenn. I believe you said it would be a significant change of more than 1% in the year shifting, pushing it out 1 year. Is that correct? Am I understanding it?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. What I
lost
was saying is it'll increase it slightly more than 1%. Currently, we are 2.8% over, so that'll get us up close to 4% over. So we're still under the 5%.
which is acceptable to federal highway, I believe, right?
Correct.
So is the committee comfortable with this? I would welcome any further discussion and a motion to adopt. Any?
I'll move
any
it,
other-
Steve.
Thank you. I'll second. All right. We have a motion and a second. Did we cover the discussion adequately? Give you one last chance for discussion, any Q&A on it? Item 4A and 4B go together. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Raise your hand in the picture. We'll monitor. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And opportunity to abstain or oppose. Does anyone wish to abstain or oppose? Please speak up. Going once, twice. We carry our consensus forward. Thank you very much. It's item 4. Up next is item, that was 5. Now we're on 6, final public participation plan update and approval. And I believe Jen Saponis can lead us on this final public participation plan update. We did cover this in a prior meeting, and this is the final review. Is Jen there?
Yep, I am here. So we completed the public comment period for the public participation plan. The only comment / request that we received was to include a definition of what we mean by equity and public participation. So we did add that to page 16. And other than that, the only things that have been changed were minor grammar, typo types of things. So this is largely the same as the draft that was presented to Planning Committee, and we are just asking now that it be approved so that we can move towards adopting it. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions for Jen on the adoption of the final plan? This is an action voting item. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved by Sean.
Motion by Sean McGuire. Is that it, Sean? Okay, nod.
Second.
I see that. I think
Second.
you're muted, but I see your nod. Second by Mark Castiglione. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Aye. All right. And any wishing to abstain or oppose this adoption, item 6 on our agenda? Going once, going twice. The motion carries. The final participation plan is hereby adopted. Thank you. Item 7 is the linkage program applications and recommendations. Item 7 for 21 and 2022. Michael and Sandy Miswitz can lead us on this. Michael, do you want to open it? Item 7.
Yes, thank you, Steve. So this, as we said in the last meeting, there were 4 new proposals for linkage studies, one from the city of Albany, one from town of East Greenbush and North Greenbush, one from Rensselaer, one from Troy. Their evaluation committee met, and we'll talk more about it, but I think I'm going to pass it over to Sandy to give a little more detail about the evaluation committee and what the results were. Sandy, can you handle that?
Sure, thanks, Mike. So we did have an evaluation team take a look at the 4 proposals. The team members included staff from the CDTC, CDTA, DOT, and CDRPC. Mike is showing on the screen, we have 9 evaluation criteria that we took a look at as we looked at each proposal. CDTC staff did vet each proposal to make sure that all the submission requirements were met, and they all were. You know, all 4 proposals are good proposals. We reached a point in the evaluation discussions where we were kind of at a little bit of an impasse, in the sense that we don't have enough money in the budget to fund all 4. We, as an evaluation team, agreed that East Greenbush and the North Greenbush proposal, East Greenbush being the sponsor, was a priority for the evaluation team. We felt Troy's proposal was strong. It's a small budget, but it's a small study area. And then the debate kind of turned to Albany versus the city of Rensselaer. So because, you know, the main concern is, or question for the planning committee is, you know, Albany has received a lot of linkage funding over the years. We haven't worked with the city of Rensselaer since 2004. The city of Albany's proposal is a little stronger than the city of Rensselaer's, but we are presenting these 2 options for you folks to see if what your comfort level is in terms of funding another project in Albany versus this one in the city of Rensselaer with the available budget. As you can see in the two options, the federal share is what we pay attention to for the budgeting process. So in option 1, which includes Albany, our threshold is $175,000. So we're just a little tad over, and I don't think that's a problem. And then for option 2, with the City of Rensselaer's proposal included, we're a bit under that $175,000 threshold. So we can fit 3 projects. We typically have said in the last few years we would fund no more than 3. But frankly, you know, the committee evaluation team is leaning towards funding Albany if the planning committee is comfortable with that. But you know, they have received a lot of linkage funding over the years. The City of Rensselaer's proposal is a good proposal. There's nothing inherently wrong with the City of Rensselaer's proposal. It just wasn't as good as Albany's. So we're really bringing this to you folks to weigh in on what your thoughts are on that, and to hopefully make some decisions today.
Just to add a little bit to what Sandy said, it does happen occasionally that the evaluation committee really doesn't reach a consensus, and I think this is one of those examples where the evaluation committee really did want to hear from the planning committee before any kind of recommendation was made. So it really is open to discussion, and I would second everything that Sandy just said. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Sandy. Good overview, and this shows the importance of our participation as members, and we welcome good discussion. And what is the pleasure of the committee at this time? Sandy laid out a few options for us. Would anyone like to lead with any point or Q&A?
Sandy,
This is
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
no, this is Katora just speaking on behalf of the City of Rensselaer. Obviously, I'm hoping to speak in favor of our application. As Sandy said, I do think one of the strongest things that we have going for us is that we haven't received linkage funding in almost 2 decades, and I can't speak to the efforts that were made to get the funding in that time, as I've only been here for a little under 3 years, but we do have some real momentum moving forward with one of the key projects on the waterfront, which is the Hilton Center. As I understand, they have actually received their designation on the National Register of Historic Places. They're eligible for all the tax credits that they've needed to move forward, and they have brought on a major construction partner. So I think that this study is really important to help bolster those public-private relationships and the cooperation that needs to happen to actually continue opening up our waterfront following the efforts that were made by my predecessor with the GEIS for Killian's Landing. And I think that we would really appreciate this opportunity to be funded. And I have a lot of confidence in our ability to carry out an effective study that will result in future funding for capital projects. So that is my piece. I just want to speak very strongly on behalf of our application.
Well stated. Thank you very much. Any other candidates wishing to advocate and present their pitch?
Steve,
I'll say
Patrick,
something.
City of Troy. Just look, I mean, we're in the mix, excuse me, regardless, but relative to the assessment between the Albany submission and the Rensselaer submission, I'd have to say that, you know, both being good, each would benefit from the linkage study. I would say that the bigger bang for the buck, though, going forward, would probably be towards Rensselaer, simply because of the items that were heretofore mentioned and just recently mentioned about future leverage. I see that area benefiting more cumulatively from the linkage study and the results that could occur afterward. The Albany area is much more developed and has greater potential for improvement based upon the community elements in that area that they submitted. So just, you know, a consideration of what the linkage study would provide for the applicants going forward. I think there might be a slight advantage to Rensselaer having that. That's all.
This is Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Somebody once gave me a piece of advice that money is like manure. It works best if you spread it around. And since Rensselaer has not had a grant in this program in more than 20 years, I think it's a good investment and has a better potential to be a catalyst for the future of the city of Rensselaer than the comparable project in the city of Albany.
As a recipient, actually, I think first time recipient of the linkage grant, I can concur on that, on its ability to launch more work. We have gotten other grants. We have decided to redo our comprehensive plan. We've got a lot of movement that we can attribute a good deal of towards getting a linkage grant, and I agree, spread it around.
Sandy, this is Mike Valentine. I have a question. We're noting that there have been no grant awards to Rensselaer, but were there applications made in that long time period?
No, there were not.
Okay. Have there been any problems as far as in that time period with other things that there's been, have they had problems with completing any projects that would have come through us that they were involved in?
No, I think what has occurred in Rensselaer over the years is there's been some changes in administration and changes at the staff level. Most recently, Katora has been now the planner for about a year, maybe a little more than that. And I think that's really the only issue. It's a small community relative to Albany. They don't have the same level of resources to commit to something like this. So speaking as an outsider looking in, that would be my observations over the years.
Right. Any problem with federal aid projects? Are there any others that they're working with that they've had problems with at all?
They do have TIP projects. I don't know if the TIP folks want to speak to their performance, but I don't believe there's been challenges in terms of moving a federal aid project along.
All right, I'll ask Katora then while she's on. Any perception of any problem with staff pushing this through to completion?
Are you asking if I anticipate there being issues due to lack of staff in completing this?
That's correct.
I don't think so, because we did incorporate, we're budgeting both our time and our money for this over the next 2 budget years. So really, once we're holding off other initiatives so we can work as efficiently as possible, with the hopes that we're funded. We will probably halt. We have one other funding for an engineering planning grant, but that would not necessarily cut into the planning staff time as much as it would require oversight from the engineering department. So we're being pretty diligent to not spread ourselves too thin here.
Okay. Are there match funds available in the city's budget this year?
Yes. And the way that our budget works too, this would actually span over the course of 2 budget years because our budget ends in August. So we have made sure that we do have full availability of funding for 1 budget year, but it's also very likely that, like I said, the way our budget works, it will be spread out over 2 budget years anyways. So we've accounted for both scenarios.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, I'd just like to add, when I look at the description here, I think the city of Rensselaer, when you look at the study, it helps them regroup and refocus. Wasn't that long ago where the casino, where it was going to land, ultimately it landed in Schenectady. Rensselaer was right there in the running. I think this helps them refocus redevelopment efforts to continue marketing. I mean, they had a great opportunity there with a Hard Rock Cafe casino. And I think a study like this can help them focus going forward in terms of economic development, land use, and planning. I know we don't, each round is a competitive round. I almost wish there was a way to encourage Albany, because it's such a strong application, to reapply. And I know we can't give them a preferential status or treatment, but if the feedback is it's a strong application, just to encourage them to reapply, and note that due to fiscal constraints and the ability of spreading the wealth with applicants that haven't applied for a while, I think that's the best way to go with it.
I echo John's sentiments there as well. Having worked with Rensselaer and worked with Katura, in the past year, I think we had my students that do a project down there. There's a lot of energy there that I think it's right to tap into, and they haven't been to the table for a project like this. I think Albany would have no problem doing this next year, and I hope that they would not take offense to my comments on this today.
Good discussions all. Thank you, Sean. Anyone else wishing to chime in at this time? Everyone seems to be leaning toward the option 2.
I'll make a motion to adopt option 2.
Very well. Thank you. Who is the second, please?
Right here, Mike.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Very good. We ready to vote? Everyone's comfortable? It was a good airing of views and history and all factors weighing in. Compliments to everyone speaking. Offer a friendly amendment to Mark's manure analogy and say it's who gets the cookies was our political science text. At any rate, all in favor of voting as moved for option 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And we rule by consensus, so there's an opportunity to go on record as abstaining or opposing. Would anyone wish to abstain or oppose at this time? Going once, going twice, hearing none, we carry our consensus forward. Excellent discussion, and the action item is carried. Thank you, everyone. Item 8 coming up is the Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP amendments. Will be led by Michael for item 8 on our agenda. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm in the process of sharing the document. Okay, so as most of us know, our UPWP, our work plan, is a 2-year UPWP. That's not always the case with the other MPOs. Sometimes they actually approve UPWPs by the year. Ours is 2-year, and in mid-year, we usually make some administrative corrections to the plan. So every 2 years or every mid-year, we bring these to the planning committee for your approval. What's happened and everybody knows this, but the pandemic has had an impact on the planning, and it's impacted mostly our members, because obviously the members, for many reasons, have not been able to participate as much as they have in the past. There have been, for financial reasons, for medical reasons, for quarantine reasons, on and on and on. The list goes on. So what's happened is for most of our consultant efforts, the studies have been delayed. And normally this wouldn't be a significant issue. We would just, we don't lose Federal Highway Administration planning funds. They just go from year to year. So we don't lose the funding when they're not spent. But in this case here, the funding is needed to complete those studies. So what we're doing is we're asking the planning committee to approve taking the unspent balance in the first year of our UPWP, adding that to the second year, and having a new second year balance for these studies, the studies in this table that I'm showing in the document. So you'll see small amounts. Some studies haven't even started. For example, the signal timing program, that wasn't a resource issue as much as wanting to wait until traffic really stabilized before we tried to do anything with signal timing. Local bridge study is moving forward very quickly. There's been a lot of progress, but right now we haven't processed any bills. So even though there's been a lot of work in that particular case, we still need the full amount of the money being moved over to the second year. Some of the studies, consultant studies listed, for example, the bus lane feasibility study, that change is a change because CDTA has decided to increase the scope of that study, that feasibility study, and also agreed to fund the increase. So we had to increase the amount of the study itself from what was originally planned in our UPWP was $100,000 consultant study to now a $200,000 consultant study. So that's just another example of why these changes have occurred. Further down in this handout, you'll see a little more explanation for a few individual tasks to give the planning committee more of an idea of what, why, and where. So here in the first task, 2.30.2, the City of Albany also decided to increase the scope and budget, and they actually are assuming the additional cost for the amount of work that we do to develop highway condition inventory within the City of Albany. That's the staff work that's being done. That's not actually a consultant, that's staff work. In the freight planning task, we did have a study planned. One of the major stakeholders for the study thought that there were conditions had changed and that that particular study scope was no longer necessary. So what we have is trying to develop a new study scope for this freight planning study. I'll get back to that. I have to share another document. In your packet, there is a copy of a study survey, and I'll let Chris Bauer talk about that after to give you a little more idea of how we're deciding or trying to decide what the new scope for that study would be. Smart communities, task number 4.30, no study sponsors applied for this funding. So what we are recommending, and Jen can talk more about this, is a study that's going to benefit everybody and all of our members. Basically a how-to manual to develop how medium and small size communities can develop smart communities in the future. And then the transit I already talked about, because that's an increase in the scope and the budget funded by CDTA. So that's a relatively quick summary of the changes from first year to the second year. There's more information in your packet if you'd like to, look at the individual tasks themselves. There's descriptions, and I would ask Chris Bauer to talk more about the freight planning study while I get the handout. Chris, are you on the phone?
Sure.
Online?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? I'm assuming.
Yes.
So, yeah, just really briefly, regrouping and trying to decide how to reallocate some of the freight planning funding that's been made available. And Mike just shared on the screen the survey. This was developed using projects that were either in our freight plan or that were suggested by freight advisory committee members over the last couple of years. So what we were doing is conducting a survey that we sent to the Freight Advisory Committee and also to this group. And we are going to compile the results for the February 17th Freight Advisory Committee meeting there, and hopefully reach a consensus about a recommendation to bring to this group about which study to pursue for 2021. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions on the freight overview? This is a voting item, Michael?
No, not yet. We're looking for input on this item. There's a SurveyMonkey link there. If you're interested in completing the survey and giving us your input as to what you think the freight study should be, that would be great. And if Jen, if you could talk more a little bit about the smart communities change in study scope.
Sure. So like Mike said, this was the second time we opened up this program to solicit for new projects, and we did not receive any proposals. We did receive questions and had conversations with some folks that were interested, but there, with the pandemic and ongoing issues, it just seemed like shifting to doing something regional would be a better option. Last round, we funded the LED guidebook. And while it was for Saratoga Springs, it's a guidebook that could be used by any community in the region. And it's an issue that a lot of different communities are currently tackling. So since there are so many common issues that people are facing with integrating new technology and shifting to using new technologies, or just figuring out how to manage it on the back end, even, we thought that developing some guidance for everyone would be a really good effort for the funding that we had allocated here. So if anyone has any questions about this or comments, be happy to answer.
Thanks, Jen. Do we cover item E, the transit planning?
Sandy, do you have anything to add to this?
Nope. The bus lane feasibility study, CDTA, is just contributing some additional funding so that we can pursue a larger effort. And we hope to launch this in the next few months. The RFP is actually being advertised as we speak.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, wraps up agenda item 8, Michael.
Yes.
Move forward. Very good. Item 9 is the TIP application. Go ahead.
We do need action, though, to approve those changes that we
discussed. Oh, for the UPWP
for the
amendments.
UPWP, right.
Okay,
for
right.
These
voting
changes,
item.
Right there.
It's an action on the voting item. So motion, anyone wish to
moved.
move it? Thank you, Bob. Second by. I'll second it. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Any abstain or opposed to the UPWP amendments? Going once, going twice. The motion carries. Thank you very much. That wraps up our agenda item 8, last of the action items. Move into discussion item 9 is the TIP application and evaluation update. And this will be Sandy Miswitz. Sandy, ready for overview on the TIP application evaluation?
Thanks, Steve. So in your packet, we compiled a summary of where we're at. As you may recall, we divided our staff into sort of 3 teams to kind of work on 3 key aspects of our TIP update, TIP application and evaluation process update. So the first is developing a web-based application. We've been reviewing some of the capabilities of different online tools, looking at Google Forms, Jot Forms, a few others. We established a list of evaluation criteria to review each tool and started to begin testing. We're also looking at the existing application questions. We're gonna drop the term project justification package and just refer to it as an application. And we're starting to compile a list of questions that require a rewording, maybe a complete rewrite or reframing, and things that can be dropped. One of the topics that I know Bob Rice mentioned in our last planning committee meeting that we're looking at is asking the right kinds of questions in order to determine whether a project fits into a preservation versus a non-preservation categories. So we're taking a close look at that. We'll be talking more about that over the coming months. With respect to the merit evaluation score sheet update, the team has been looking at past TIP evaluations and the proposals to see how things were scored and what factors were having the largest influence on the scoring. They are working on suggestions for improving language within each merit category to make the score sheets more consistent and aligned with New Visions and some of the other regional initiatives going on, as well as making sure it's understandable for the folks applying for funding. And we're going to be reviewing internal suggestions in the month of February and March. And so by April, we hope to have some draft material for this committee to look at and give us some feedback on. And then finally, on the evaluation data management piece, the staff here has discussed our internal TIP evaluation data collection, storage needs, how we share information internally, developing some one-click forms and other reports for output. We've looked at some database software options. We're looking at SharePoint access and others. Definitely clicking a one-click report to allow for the easy printing and consumption of a new spreadsheet with all the data that you folks see. And we'll be working on developing a sample of that for staff input again in the months of February and March. So in terms of the schedule for this project, we'll be briefing our policy board, who has not been briefed on this yet, in the March meeting. We'll come back to you folks in April to take a look at the merit score sheet for review and comment. And then in the month of May, we'll look at the draft application and the web-based application tool and some of the other data outputs for your review and comment. So that's where we're at this point. Any specific questions about that?
Hey, Sandy, it's great to hear that you're looking at what constitutes a preservation project. The other thing I had mentioned was about the trail projects. Any discussion around separating the preservation of those facilities versus new facilities in terms of the update?
Yeah, we definitely are taking a look at all the modes, frankly, for, categorizing things preservation versus non. And you're right, trails, we have some trails in the region that are reaching the point where they fit more into a maintenance category than they do new construction. So we are definitely taking a look at that.
Hey, great, thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Sandy. Any other questions on item 9? Okay, item 10 is the CDTC project delivery update, and Jacob will lead us on this. Jacob, are you ready? Yep, there it is on the screen.
I am. Thanks, Steve.
you.
So a couple notes of project milestones since last month. We have the city of Rensselaer and their city pedestrian safety action plan had construction authorization in December of last year. And the town of Clifton Park in their town pedestrian safety action plan, we had PS&E submitted in January of 2021. So those projects are moving forward. As always, we have an update from a local sponsor, and this month we have Steve Feeney from Schenectady County, and Steve's gonna to say a few words about the High Bridge Road and East Campbell Road sidewalk reconstruction and extension project that I believe is finishing up construction, going to be this spring. So Steve, if you're on. And
I'm here. Can you hear me, Jacob?
We can hear you.
All right, good. I'll be brief. This really was 2 projects. I think it goes back to maybe the 2015 solicitation. I don't know, there was a bike ped solicitation and for bike ped and pavement preservation, and we were fortunate enough to get both of those. So with the indulgence of the committee, we combined the 2 projects. One was a sidewalk rehabilitation project, and one was a pavement rehabilitation. And so we did combine those, and we are about, I'd say, 95% complete. The project is basically sidewalk rehabilitation and extension, some extension work along High Bridge Road and East Campbell Road. It's between Kings Road and Hamburg Street. Kings Road in the city and Hamburg in the town of Rotterdam. The project really begins at High Bridge Road and Kings on the east end and extends west approximately 1 mile along High Bridge Road and East Campbell Road to the entrance to Bratt Elementary School. So we did also partner with NISDOT on the sidewalks that cross I-890 on the bridge. They provided funding for the new pedestrian ped heads that have been installed. I believe also, maybe Bob can speak to this, when we were doing our pavement job, I guess there were some issues with the pavement out there on the approaches to the bridge that had sunk a little bit, and I think NISDOT also financed some additional pavement work through there. We weren't, we were able to keep our original, I guess, most of our scope with the sidewalks. We weren't able to rehabilitate all the sections we would have liked, but just to sum up some of the improvements, we did add ADA ramps and crosswalks at all of the side streets along High Bridge where sidewalks currently existed. We extended the sidewalk on the north side of High Bridge from High Bridge Pizza to the intersection of Kings Road. There was quite a bit of demand. You could see through there the goat paths and stuff. So we did extend that sidewalk to get people to some of those pedestrian destinations in that area. And maybe Chris Wallen could speak to this. We did end at Kings, and we're anticipating tying into their bridge reconstruction project, which is going to extend sidewalks in that area. We did add a new sidewalk section along East Campbell between High Bridge and Bratt Elementary School. And we are installing a RFB with that. There's a crossing there with the elementary school. Let's see, we did upgrade the ADA crosswalks at East Campbell and High Bridge intersection, and we did upgrade a couple of mid-block crossings. We couldn't, like I said, with the budget we had, we couldn't rehabilitate all sections of existing sidewalk, but we did get a lot done. It's an interesting project because we also worked with the town of Rotterdam. They had a drainage problem in that area, and I don't know if Peter's on. I don't think he is, but you can speak to that. We were able to help them out a little bit since we were in the area with their drainage issue. We do have, I guess, some issues. The project's about 95% complete. The RFB is not in. That will probably be a spring install. And maybe Bob could speak to this. There's some issue with the ped head crossings at I-890. They were reviewed and approved by DOT, but there's some issue with the location. I'm not sure exactly what it is. They are not operational yet, but they are in. And maybe Chris could, I'm not sure what his schedule is, but it's going to be a nice project to tie into what the city is doing on Kings Road. And it makes a nice pedestrian tie-in there. So if that's my quick summary, Jacob.
That's great, Steve. A lot of great information as always. We appreciate the update, and it's definitely good to hear on some of these projects where we have multiple sponsors involved and coordinating with each other, and multiple tip projects that are going to end up linking up to each other. I don't know, Bob, did you have anything to add to that? If not, that's.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure why those aren't activated, Steve. I'd have to find out.
Okay. I thought there was some issue. I was talking to Paul Sheldon, our engineer, about it. He thought there was some issue with the location or something that DOT didn't like, but I don't know. So
that doesn't sound like us at all, Steve. So great.
Yeah. So thank you again, Steve. And I guess I want to remind the group here. So for the April Planning Committee meeting, I'm going to be requesting tip project updates from CDTA, and that'll complete our the February Planning Committee meeting is kind of the last. It's when I reset and start reaching out to sponsors again for the next year. So CDTA is the last on my list for the past year. So Ross, keep an eye out for an email from me. And just kind of want to remind everyone again, we always are posting the most recent copy of our local project tracking spreadsheet, which Mike is sharing right now. That's available on our website with the meeting materials. So I encourage everyone, sponsors and consultants, to take a look and to see make sure that we have the most up-to-date information on your projects, because we get updates from a number of different avenues, and try to keep it up to date, but know that is not all inclusive of the most up-to-date projects. So always want to hear more from everyone. So that's all I have, Steve.
Thank you, Jacob. Excellent. This is a good feature. Another improvement in our new CDTC planning processes. Great tool in our planner's toolbox. Next up is the DOT project review. That'll be Bob and Greg. Bob Rice, you ready?
Yeah, I think, Mike, you're going to be able to display those. Yeah. There's certainly an increased interest in the capital, the letting program, both from our commissioner as well as downtown. So I think we just want to take the opportunity to sort of a preview of this is what we show for state fiscal year 21-22. And if any of the sponsors are not comfortable with the letting date or the amount of the construction right now, I mean, we should have a conversation, make sure you're talking with myself or Lorenzo and make sure we're on the same page in terms of deliverability, particularly focused on state fiscal year 21-22. A lot of Bridge New York culvert projects, as well as structures, tap projects. I mean, across the board. I mean, it's good. We've got a healthy letting year plan. But if there's a sponsor that's not comfortable with that schedule, now is the time to have that conversation. So thanks. Can you put up the state one, Mike?
Yes, before I do that, just want to say that we can send this to all the planning committee members for their information.
Yeah.
So they have their own copy.
Yep. Yeah. That's why if you can't see it on the screen, even, review it afterwards, included with the minutes.
All right. Thank you.
This is DOT's commitment list for the 4 counties for the upcoming state fiscal year. I mean, you can certainly see, we talked about the I-90 paving. Route 4 has got a big project, a big deck job over to Schoharie. 890, a lot of structure work. And now that the thruway is not taking all the overhead sign structures, we can let it job this year. So that's what DOT's program looks like. That's my update, Steve, unless there's questions.
Excellent, Bob. Thank you. Any questions on the DOT program? Looks very impressive.
Is this an opportunity to bring up a question about Bridge New York program at all?
Yeah, Mike, I was going to talk about that in our update. I mean, solicitations are out now, an hour later. I mean, specific question about that?
Well, not a specific. I was just looking at if you would just, I know there were mailings going out. I just see if you wouldn't take an opportunity at this point to talk about the programming, timing, and the wonderful training that we would all have to go through again, as far as federal aid stuff,
there's obviously I without the sheet in front of me, I don't even know what the date is that they're due back, the submissions. Okay. But depending on statewide, there's different comfort level with delivery of federal aid projects. So sometimes the training appears to be a little bit 101 kind of class for the majority of people in the room, but we always have some municipalities that are left scratching their head at the end of that sort of discussion too. So
I saw in the material that came out, there wasn't anything about, I don't remember seeing dates or locations for that training. Is there one coming out?
No, I don't think those have been scheduled.
Okay.
Yet.
All right. That's all I had then. Thanks.
The only other thing that's probably worth mentioning about those, as well as any of the statewide solicitation projects, I mean, we've come up a couple times where construction cost, the estimate is well above the amount of money of the award, and Obviously, the options for additional resources to those particular projects is a lot more complicated than the options are much more limited than they are projects that came through this body and the more traditional planning process. So we've had a couple instances where sponsors, quite frankly, aren't sure where the money's going to come from to fund their Bridge New York or TAP CMAQ job. So that's certainly a consideration when submittals are being made.
Speaking on that, I don't know if this directly ties in, but this second go around of the Bridge New York funding, if construction estimates changed from the original project approval, and that additional money is necessary, can that be amended with a second submission for this round of Bridge New York funding to acquire the necessary construction funds? That
You're saying some that had already been approved, Andrew?
Yeah, so we've got a bridge on the first round. The construction estimate, because of the initial deferment in time, costs have gone up a bit. Not a huge amount, but we're still deficient in the construction, what's on the tip for the construction amount. So if we need to make that up because that original Bridge New York funding can't be amended, can the amount needed now be submitted as part of the second round of Bridge New York funding solicitations going out?
I'll have to get an answer for you. I don't know if I don't think they're accepting supplemental sort of things. I think it would be reviewed on its own merit as the project at its current price, as opposed to the delta sort of dollars being asked for. I don't see any provision in there right there, but I can follow up on that, Andrew. I know there are a number of projects around the state that even may have been funded through the MPO process that are also, seeking the money because they've only got X number of dollars and need X plus 10. So that they're also submitting. So I know they are certainly, so they are accepting candidates for ones that have not been implemented through prior rounds, but I don't know of just that there is no pot that's dedicated to supplementing existing ones.
Okay.
So, but I'll get a little bit of clarification and follow up with you, Andrew.
Great.
Steve, if I may, this is Joe Cimino. I just called up on my screen. I wanted to mention to the group that there is, and this may have been added recently, according to the DOT's website, a WebEx training. And the reason I want to bring it up, it's not that far away. It's February 16th, according to the website at 10 a.m. So that's a couple weeks away. The website's very good. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, if you just go to New York State DOT's overall website, right on the homepage, there's a link to Bridge New York. And there they have all the guidelines and the due dates and all that good stuff. The first pre-review dates, if you do a pre-review, which is highly recommended, those dates are
Joe, I just made you co-host. Can you share that screen?
yeah.
Try.
I can try. I don't use Zoom much, but I will try. I use Teams.
They're all a little different.
Yeah. Is there a button up top there, Mike,
On the bottom, there's a green button says
Oh,
share
share
screen.
That makes sense.
It has to be opened on your computer and then it shows up.
So are you seeing that right now?
No.
Try one more time.
Whoa.
Hey, you, Mike? Is that what you see?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go back to there we go. So this is the if you go to Bridge, I'm sorry, I'll just go back one page. Hopefully, Bridge, New York, you can look that up directly, or you can go right to the DOT's main website. But when I click on that, here's the Bridge, New York solicitation program. They have the old rules from previous years, but this is 2021 rules, and all the guidelines are here. Notice of funding availability. The worksheet you have to fill out, of course, for application. And then the webinar I spoke of right here on the 16th. The program deadlines are not too bad. I mean, they're out a couple months. I'll show you the pre-reviews for draft applications are not till April and May. But that gives you between February and April and May to get your applications together and so forth. The final submissions are May 5th and May 26th. Different schedules for culvert and bridges. So. Okay.
Nice. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thanks for sharing that, Joe. All right, good.
Just wanted to mention that
Ready to
that's
move
all
forward?
available on CDTC's website as well.
What was that, Sandy, you cut out there? Was
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention that's all available on CDTC's website as well.
all right, thank you.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the support, man. You're hired. We do. It is on the site that Joe mentioned the February 16th as the WebEx training. And, you know, I would certainly concur with the draft application sponsor. I mean, I know everybody had good comments that had submitted the draft. They like getting the feedback before the finals were due. And there's also a frequently asked questions on the site that it seems to be pretty helpful. So if you don't want to call Joe, you can call DOT. Thanks,
Joe,
Steve.
Joe, you have to stop sharing your screen though.
Yeah, that's probably harder than.
No, it's down there in the bottom.
Yeah. Don't call me for tech help though, please.
All right, open forum. Here we go. Item 12, status of CDTC planning activities will be our update on staff reports. Item A is the Boston Spa Bike Ped Master Plan with Jacob. Jacob, are you ready to cover us on 12A?
Yep. We held our first project team meeting virtually via Zoom on January 15th. This is essentially a project kickoff meeting with our kind of key organizational partners, the village, us, CDRPC, and the consultant team, and a few others. DOT is on the call as well. Really, this meeting was to kind of review the scope, go over our existing data sources, and finalize our study advisory committee members. Right now, the consultant team is working on initial data collection efforts, and we are anticipating our first study advisory committee meeting in late February. And that's all we have for that.
Sorry, any questions for Jacob on the Boston Spa Bike Ped Master Plan? Thank you, Jacob. Next item B is the Manans Land Use Regulations Update, and Rima can give us an overview. Hello, Rima.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, hi. So we chose the chasing companies after reviewing the proposals, and we are in the process of finalizing the contract, and I expect that we'll have a kickoff meeting with the village and the consultant team later this month and launch the project next month.
Okay, thank you, Rima. Any questions on Manans Land Use Regs Update? Item C next up, and is the Scotia Downtown Connections Plan. Andrew?
Yes, good morning, everybody. The contract is now fully executed, so we are scheduling the kickoff meeting, which will just be the core project team kickoff, just Village of Scotia, CDTC, and the consultant team. And then that will be followed by the first study advisory committee meeting, which will have the full range of stakeholders that want to attend. So the project is just getting underway now.
Thanks, Andrew. Any questions on that project? Scotia Downtown Connections, moving forward. Thank you. Item D next up is the CDTC Regional Planning Commission Technical Assistance TAP Program Project. Sandy, you can give us an overview?
Sure. So we have, in partnership with CDRPC, completed the Clifton Park Technical Assistance Project. The project in East Greenbush on Gilligan Road is just about complete. There's a town board presentation scheduled for next week. We have just started projects with Troy and a different project with Glenville in the last week or two. And we have been coordinating a bit more with Ballston Spa and sorry, Ballston Spa and Colony on the remaining two. So things are progressing. We hope to have as much completed by the end of the fiscal year, which is March 31st, as we can. There might be a little bleed over into the next fiscal year. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Sandy. Any questions on the TAP program for Sandy? Nice overview. Last up, item E Echo is the virtual New Visions training for town boards, including planning and zoning boards, municipal boards. And Jen Saponis can lead us on this. Jen, you ready?
Sure. So, as we've been talking about, we are in the implementation phase of New Visions 2050. There, if you go to our webpage, cdtcnpo.org/NV2050, you will find all of the different pieces of the plan, but also you will find a form to request training. Again, this is for town boards, city council, zoning boards, planning boards, or if you would just like to have a discussion about implementing New Visions as a planning committee member, as a planner, local government planner, engineer, please, reach out and let me know. I'd be happy to set something up. Also, we have a virtual learning series. It's the third Tuesday of every month. We are scheduled February 16th. We will be doing a webinar on aging and mobility. So we'll talk about the coordinated plan, but we also have someone from AARP that'll talk about the livability initiatives that they've been undertaking, particularly here in the capital region. March, our focus will be on safety and regional safety trends. April's on performance measures. May will be bicycling. And then we are working on scheduling through the next few months. If there are particular topics within New Visions or questions about New Visions that you have that you'd like to see covered, please let me know. And just one more thing, we've been able to get AICP credits for the webinar. So if you participate in those webinars, you can get free credits. If you're not able to attend the webinars, they're all available on the CDTC YouTube channel.
Any questions for Jen? Thank you, Jen.
If you don't mind, I've got one, Jen. On this, I'm compiling sources to send out to in our county to supervisors for their municipal land use boards for their required 4-hour training for the year. How would what you have, how would it be applicable to planning board members? It's a broad question, but that's some of the things that when we have our conference, we're looking at subject matter that is applicable to a board member sitting in a meeting, once, twice a month.
Right. So we could, for the New Visions training, we can, tailor our training or presentation to planning boards. So really looking at, the types of decisions that are made at the planning board table and how New Visions 2050 principles and goals and strategies can influence that or impact that. So that's, we lay out in the New Visions plan, and we see New Visions as something that everyone has a role in implementing. So from local governments to planning boards, zoning boards, we can really tailor our presentation and training to any entity. And are you also looking for like the credit hours that they need to?
Yes, yeah.
Are those approved through the Department of State?
Well, in actuality, by legislation, the municipal board can adopt what they approve or authorize for that training. All right, and we already use, we use our own staff and what we have for our planning conferences. And then also we'll take like CDRPC for what Mark has, for his classes too. So I'm just looking and I'm pulling an aggregate of what's available through Planning Federation, land use through DOS, any of those. So when I looked at this and saw it, what I was looking at is, okay, is it applicable for, that planning board member, sitting on there in the first and second or first and third Wednesday of the month or something, that he's going to be able to utilize.
I think from my perspective, it's tremendously valuable to provide a regional context for local decision making.
And I wouldn't doubt that, Mark, at all. I don't mean to, I don't doubt that from where we all sit looking at something, okay? But that board, I don't. All right, I'll go with that. I take that. But Jen, what I'll do is probably be in contact with you if you don't mind to talk to you further by phone about it.
Sure.
I won't be today though.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just to briefly expand on that, I think it's a great role for CDTC to play to get out into communities and to provide the direct training and hand-holding, because the proposition of implementing regional planning in a home rule state is that incrementally changes need to happen at the local level, whether that's updating your comprehensive plan or very much incrementally through better decision-making at the planning board and zoning board level. And those boards have a certain degree of discretion to request best practices be implemented. But I think introducing those people, and particularly those people that will be involved in land use approvals and future planning at municipalities to the regional concepts and new visions is extremely important.
Well put. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, go
If I
ahead,
could
Jen.
just piggyback on this conversation for just a second. I just wanted to point out to Mike and everyone else that there is CDTC has developed a curated video library on the CDTC website that could also serve as a resource, training resource and orientation resource for planning committees and planning boards and zoning boards and whatnot. So I encourage you all to check that out, and I'll put the link in the chat box in just a second.
Rima, oh wait a minute, am I on? Yeah.
Yeah.
There, okay, I can always figure, yeah, I'm on still, okay.
Yeah.
On that link, would you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
Brad, can you just throw me an email with that link in the email? Then I can incorporate it into what we're putting together, okay?
Absolutely. I'll put it in the chat box and then I'll send it to you directly, Mike.
All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
We're partners in progress to promote smart growth and new transportation technologies. Good discussions, everyone. Next up, status of planning activities. We go around. Regional Planning Commission is up first. Mark, you ready?
All right. Our big news is that the new program for the Clean Energy Communities program has been launched. It's the leadership round. So check out CDRPC's website or contact directly Todd Fabosi on our team to find out all the good things that are included in the new program. We are still in the process of distributing some CARES Act money to economic development organizations in the 4 counties. The census is still working through correcting or some of anomalies in the data, and they plan to release a preliminary file for apportionment by the end of this, or the preliminary file by the end of this month for final submission in April, and that apportionment happens, for our congressional districts and representation. We continue to work, on new technical assistance projects with CDTC, and we're excited about those things. And we have just received a draft of a new economic data dashboard, working with our partners in the economic development communities. We're trying to develop a tool that will paint a real-time picture of economic impacts and recovery from the COVID pandemic. So more to come on that. And as always, a reminder, we continually make improvements to our capitalregionindicators.org website. So I encourage all of you, if you're in need of demographic data, go visit capitalregionindicators.org for all your data needs. Thanks.
Any questions for Mark? Excellent overview, Mark. Thank you. Questions? Yeah, there's so much online, but it's good to have a little FaceTime, even if it's via Zoom, and to get the direct links we need to advance our cause. Item B is the CDTA. Is Russ Farrell still on? Russ?
Thanks, Steve. Only other thing to update everyone is we're continuously making service changes to adapt to the changes in ridership. I feel like I talk about this every time we have a meeting, but you know, ridership is just in a really a roller coaster. And so we were at 55,000 per weekday, went down at one point below 20,000, went back up to above 40,000, and now we're settling in a little bit below 30,000, mainly due to the second wave of the pandemic. And so with that, you know, in January 31st, so this Sunday, we made another round of changes, adjustments in frequency on a couple of our trunk routes. So this is just bringing this up because there has no really new normal in our route system. This is a lot of what I talk about with Sandy when we discuss our future transit development plan, which is now pushing 8 years old. It's very difficult for us to see what the future is going to be. But at the same point, we do know certain things are definitely going to move forward. And I just want to reinforce, I know we've talked about it a lot, just reinforce to any consultants on the line. I encourage you to download the bus lane feasibility study. This is an exciting project, big picture planning, conceptual planning for upgrades and enhancements of the BRT system that we've been discussing today. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Russ. Any questions on the CDTA front? Any questions for us? Opportunity. Yeah, it's very challenging times, but we hope to see improvement, significant improvement soon. Let's see. Next up, DOT. Bob, did you want to report on this?
Yeah, just a couple things. Mike, before the local and the state, for next state fiscal year, we certainly want to share them, but the caveat of a draft or somehow to put across those, just so they're not perceived as final commitment documents. All right, when you share those.
Absolutely, I'll make sure we in the email we say draft.
Okay.
Thank you.
But, we talked a little bit about Bridge New York. I went to the Albany Skyway project was both mentioned in the governor's state of the state as well as the commissioner's address to the legislature. So we had a well-attended pre-bid meeting last week, and hopefully it will lead to some competitive bids when the letting happens in 2 weeks from now. We also had the first of our workshop/training sections with Federal Highway. I appreciate Sandy from CDTC participating. It sort of helped us craft a scope of services for the Troy-Manans 378, the bridge replacement. So it's good to we're talking things out with Federal Highway. Under my understanding, under the President Biden's executive orders, rescinded the one federal decision protocols that had been placed under the previous administration. So there's, in terms of environmental processes, I think there's some amendments to come in the development of federal aid projects. But so we're sort of working through some of those with Federal Highway and what that means for the scope of these services. I mentioned that within the commissioner's testimony, to the legislature. She talked about the TAP CMAC program and another round to come out sometime this year. I know staff is ready and the sort of in-house stuff has been done. We're just sort of waiting budgets and go ahead on that. She also mentioned there's been a lot of discussion around the CHIPS program and currently being at 80% of a municipality's allocation, that another 15% of that being restored at some point. So we're awaiting guidance and sort of how we're in receiving payment requests for the current quarter, but we don't have yet directions about the other share that would get it up to 95% of the allocation. So hopefully we'll have some more guidance on that in the near term, but I know we get a lot of questions about CHIPS. So that's all I have today, Steve. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate all the oversight and updating here. Is anyone on from the Thruway Authority? Tim Wainwright was here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Not a lot to report. For the most part, we're in our winter shutdown. Pretty much everything is focused on snow and ice operations. But thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the Thruway front for Tim? Let's see. Albany County Airport Authority is next. All right. It's a quiet month. I could repeat my January report that we're still fairly flat. The holidays bump it up a little bit. We hope to see a strong, winter break, spring break. 2 million New Yorkers are now vaccinated. We hope people start taking advantage of air travel opportunities. Cargo is up 20% over the prior year, still strong on air cargo. We're very excited to report this Tuesday, the 9th, we'll have our first meeting of the Regional Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committees for our 20-year master plan. First in many years, we've done a full-fledged master plan. And there's excellent collaboration, 100% attendance, both in person and also Zoom opportunity. The leadership of RPI, GE Research and Development, major stakeholders in the region are all on that Regional Advisory Committee along with the elected representatives, and the technical staff will be in the afternoon. So we'll report on that. We'll probably get a little news on that item, the master plan. We're all excited. It's a tough year to have the vision, but FAA just came out with terminal area forecast of what they expect, and that's draft again. But we should be back to last year's levels by 2025 is what the FAA forecasting team is saying. So something like a 3 or 4 year recoup, but it may come sooner. It's crystal ball gazing, but happy to answer any questions. We have ongoing capital program as always, a major taxiway rehab, passenger boarding bridges, elevators, escalators, a lot of fleet improvements. Happy to answer any questions on the airport front if anyone has any.
Steve, just a curiosity.
Tony Vassal, are you there for Port District report?
Yes, I think Bob wants to say something.
Great.
Steve, just a curiosity question, I guess. My understanding they're doing COVID tests directly at the airport. Is it at Albany Airport's got kind of a pilot program there?
Yes, that is correct. It's the saliva test. It's painless. They do the rapid testing for travelers. Please check the flyalbany.com or albany-airport.com, the two websites there, for further guidance. Also, the information desk is in the lead of coordinating that, and it can be immediate testing as necessary to promote your travel plans. So yeah, we're one of the few airports doing that rapid saliva testing to help encourage the air traveling public. Thanks for asking, Bob. We also have a dedicated master plan website too, if you're into checking out. It's a Clough Harbor Associates consultant team on that. But on the testing, yes, we're leading that. We also are proud to promote the Clean Airport Initiative. We have the GBAC. We're one of 4 airports in the world with all the best cleanliness accolades from GBAC, the credential agency, and also second agency. I'm getting brain freeze for a moment. Did I answer your question, Bob?
Yeah, no, Steve, it's great.
Yes. Yeah. So please feel free to take advantage of that. It's a speaking from experience, very painless. Just the saliva, just swab on your tongue, and put it in a vial and ship it off, and you get a rapid response on that. So thanks for asking about that. Sorry, Tony, you ready to give a Port District Commission report? Tony?
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Good morning, all. Going to talk about two items this morning at the Port of Albany, Rensselaer. First of all, the terminal itself. We, like everybody, faced a number of headwinds, difficulties, challenges with the COVID pandemic and everything like that. One of the factors was a number of domestic and international projects were canceled due to factors such as people didn't have people on the production line to put together the major products involved in the project. So some have been canceled or put on hold. Scrap steel, another one of our major product areas, was slow or flat. We did pick up some new business in the forest products area, and we ended up 20% on ships and barges and 16% on tons. So a lot of ports didn't end up on the plus side. On another item, which you've probably heard quite a bit, is the offshore wind. A few years ago, we acquired 83 acres in Bethlehem, which is adjacent to our port property. And we were either going to push for offshore wind or supply chain distribution logistics. Needless to say, what happened is Equinor, a company based in Stavanger, Norway, the #1 offshore wind company in the world, are going to establish an offshore wind tower assembly facility at the port. They're going to be working with two other companies, Marmon out of Canada and Wellcom, a Danish firm. They'll do the fabrication and everything, and then move it over to the 83 acres where there's going to be a 660,000 square foot facility, warehouse, assembly. And we're also going to be building a dock for barges. That our present dock at the terminal has 1,200 pounds per square foot. This facility will have 6,000 pounds per square foot because of the weight of the towers. And the towers will be loaded horizontally on barges because they can't go down the Hudson River vertically. So they'll go down the Hudson, and at this point in time, it hasn't been determined whether it will go to a facility in South Brooklyn or right to the two facilities, the Empire Wind Project and the Beacon Wind Project, both off of Long Island. This is going to create about 350 jobs, and will take place between 21 and 24. So, it's a very positive thing. The offshore wind is being pushed heavily. So we're in the right place. We positioned ourselves well. Thank you.
Congratulations, Tony. Yeah, it's exciting news to hear about the wind projects and all that progress there is excellent. Still shipping a lot of scrap metal out, or is that on?
Yes, scrap steel. The steel comes in. It goes primarily to Turkey. They fabricate it into rods or rebars or whatever, or also a lot of like plate, and it goes into the production, comes back to the United States and goes to the auto producers.
Any
So
questions?
check it out and get it back.
Very thanks, Tony. Any other questions around the board? Committee? Very good. Upcoming meetings. Next, Bike Ped is on February 9th. Regional Transportation Coordination Committee. Mike, what is that on the 11th?
Steve, I have to interrupt there.
Yep, good.
But the February 11th, that is an error on our agenda. That meeting is the Regional Regional Operations and Safety Advisory Committee, the ROSAC committee. So it's not the RTCC meeting, it's the ROSAC. All right, so Operations and Safety Advisory Committee meeting on February 11th. To answer your questions about the Regional Transportation Coordination Committee, that's the regional committee that deals with human services transportation, 5310 vehicles, coordination among different senior agencies, senior and disabled agencies for transportation.
Excellent. Thank you for a reminder. Sometimes we need a refresher. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
New Visions virtual learning webinars on the 16th, along with the DOT webinars also. This is focused on the adapting ADA for aging adults. February 17th is Freight Advisory Committee. March 4th is the Policy Board. So our next meeting of this planning committee is not until April 7th. Happy spring, everyone.
Right.
Would accept a motion to adjourn unless there's any new business at this time. Anyone need to chime in with a request for a review of any old business or new business? Speak up.
So moved.
Move to adjourn. Okay, I'll second it. Thank
Thanks,
everyone.
Mike.
Please stay safe and be well, everyone. Thank you so much for your support, ongoing partners in progress all around. Thank you so much. Stay well.
Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike.